Hi, welcome to TechRadar. I'm Tom Bedford.
And I'm James Peckham, and today we're here to talk about the phones we're most excited for in 2020. So we're going to jump straight into it with Tom's number one pick.
My first pick was the Sony Xperia 2, or whatever the next Sony flagship ends up being called. And the reason I'm really interested in this is because all through 2019, Sony had interesting phones that bordered on great, but never quite got there. And I feel that if Sony can find ways to improve on its few weaknesses, it could put out a really interesting flagship phone.
So you've reviewed both the Sony Xperia 1 and the Xperia 5, so the most recent Sony phones.
Yeah, the two top-end phones they've had of last year and one of the budget ones. And that's why I've kind of seen the way they're improving on them, but there is a little bit further to go. I think they need a bit better cameras and maybe longer battery life, as well as an improved fingerprint sensor, just to be easier to use.
The weird thing was, so I've been reviewing Sony phones for like the last 5 years or so, and like the one thing with Sony is they've always had like good spec on paper, but it's never actually like translated to amazing cameras. But the auto mode has never been as good as, say, the iPhone or Samsung. So is that the kind of thing that you're really
hoping so, because lots of the top-end camera phones at the moment use Sony sensors, so it should only be a matter of getting those sensors in there and really optimizing them.
Yeah. Are you expecting anything completely game-changing from Sony? Like, would they do anything such as 5G or anything?
No, I think they found the track they want to stick in, which is the entertainment. So they've got a good-looking screen, they've got the dual surround sound speakers, and I think they want to try and stick with that and try and make it as best they can.
Yeah, the 21:9 screen I think is going to be sticking around, isn't it, for whatever comes next?
It works. Now there's more content on Netflix, on Amazon Prime that you can download that is 21:9 compared to when they started making these phones, that I think there's more of a market for it and it might work a little bit better now.
Cool, yeah.
So your first choice?
My first choice is probably going to come out around a similar kind of time as the Sony, and probably the most boring choice on this list is the Samsung Galaxy S20. Specifically, I'm going to talk about the Ultra, because that is the new phone in the series that we've never really seen them include before. So this is looking like it's going to be the largest phone in the series in terms of pure size, but also probably not the highest spec. The Plus is probably going to be the one with the highest spec. They're going for a ridiculous camera on it. Some of the rumors say 64 megapixels, I think. Some of them say 108 megapixels. I'm still not certain that they go for 108 megapixels, but maybe they will. We're probably going to hear about this quite soon as well. February 11th is when we're expecting to hear about the Galaxy S20
Only a few
series.
weeks right now.
Only a few weeks from here. Yeah, you might be watching this after it's actually come out, so you might know a bit more about it than we actually do right now. But yeah, in terms of there's likely to be 3 phones in that series, but I think the Ultra is going to be purely the most interesting one because it's brand new. We've never seen.
Why is it the Ultra out of the series that you're most interested in?
Just for something a little bit different, really. Like they're mixing up the series this year. It doesn't look like we're going to get the E device, the cheaper device in the series. It looks like they're instead going to have that as the S20. Sorry, I'm still almost calling it the S11 because we've been calling it that for the last year and a bit. Yeah. But yeah, the S20e doesn't really seem to be a thing this year. So instead, they're kind of taking a lot of the ideas behind that and making that into the larger phone in the series. Is what it looks like.
Kind of taking the iPhone naming system from the 11 series and bumping it up. And why are you a little bit skeptical about the 108 megapixel camera?
It sounds too much, doesn't it? Like right now, it just sounds too much for Samsung, in my opinion. Like they always err on using slightly lower spec camera, but then like messing around with the...
It's a jump from the 12 megapixels of the S10, isn't it?
Exactly, a really big jump. So yeah, we're talking almost 10 times the amount of megapixels on the phone. So yeah, that should be interesting. I don't think there's going to be anything completely game changing on these phones, in my opinion, so far. I don't think there's going to be something that makes us like completely floors us. Maybe all 3 phones will end up being 5G compatible, and that'd be their kind of angle to it.
Would that improve them for you, or is that necessary for you?
No, not right now. 5G is a really big upgrade, and it's going to be useful for a lot of people in the coming years. But I still don't think it's that prolific right now for the average person. So I don't think all of these phones need to have that. But we're going to know all about it pretty soon. Really, we may see one of the best phones of 2020 coming out at the start of the year.
Well, the S10 Plus ended up topping our list by the end of 2019, didn't it? And this is set to be the successor to that.
Right now, as we're speaking, the S10 Plus is still our favourite phone in the world. So it makes sense. What's your second pick?
Pick number 2 for me is a bit of a wild card. It's the Huawei P40. The reasons are twofold. I tested the P30 and love the camera. I think it's really great camera specs for reasonable price points are really good for photographers. So I'm excited to see how they improve on that. The other thing I'm interested in is to see what Huawei does with the apps, because as we're speaking, the Huawei ban's still in effect. We don't think it's going to come with Google apps. So I'm interested to see if Huawei decides to put out another phone with not many apps like it did for the Mate 30 series, which didn't come to many places, or if it's going to show us its equivalent of the Google mobile services, the Huawei mobile services. So I'm kind of interested to see what Huawei ends up doing with that. And the cameras, of course, they're the two main things. Although at the moment leaks are making it sound like it will have very similar cameras to the P30. So I'm kind of intrigued, a little bit skeptical to see if there's going to be as big an upgrade as we'd hoped for, really.
Yeah, I think that's probably the most interesting phone story this year, really, isn't it? What Huawei does next in that way, because they were really nipping at the heels of the big manufacturers until this Huawei ban came in effect and kind of ruins the Mate 30 Pro for most people around the world.
Both bearing in mind that the Mate 30 series in China still was very successful, and it's been slowly rolling out over the last few months. As of writing, I think it was released in Russia about a week ago. Not as of writing, sorry, as of speaking. So it is slowly coming to places, and it does feel like Huawei's not ready to give up yet, which is why they've confirmed that there's going to be a launch for it.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see what they do there as well, because in terms of, we've seen some manufacturers in the past come along with brand new operating systems and it's not had the support from third parties. Huawei could be the one that does it in a way. Like, they are such a massive name, and if they can get the real big dogs of apps basically on board, if you can get, for example, like all the Facebook apps, if they could all be confirmed to work on the Huawei system, then that would, for some people, that would be something that would change it. You still wouldn't have access to Google services, not easily anyway, so that would be a real problem for most people in the West, I'd say.
That might be, but I'd say the main things you want on your phone are maybe not the Google services as much as they are like the social network. So if they can get TikTok, they're going to strike a massive kind of success for a lot of the audience and other similar apps. So I think they might not need the Google apps as long as they've got an equivalent of the Play Store, as long as they can still get games and new apps.
Why are you more excited for the P40 over the P40 Pro? Is there an interest in?
Honestly, I didn't use the P30 Pro, and I also think it was maybe a bit more expensive than it needed to be. The extra camera didn't seem like it would change the photography experience too much. So the money saved by getting the smaller screen and the lesser specs is probably worth it, I think, for most people. And I'm interested to see if it's the same for the P40. It is bearing in mind they're expecting there to be 3 P40 phones, not including the Lite, actually. There's meant to be
at least
Pro Premium Edition is what we've heard that's really expensive. So I'm kind of... I'll keep that as a side one on this one. Interested to see what Huawei does that is pro and premium at the same time.
Oh, I'm really scared to see what that price is going to be for a premium edition, considering their last phone was £900 in the UK. If it was out in the US, it would be about $800.
It's rumoured to be €1,200, which would be kind of above 4 figures in most currencies.
Brilliant. Talking about phones that are not that expensive, look at that segue. My second choice is the Google Pixel 4a. I'm not that excited about the Pixel 5, honestly, in terms of...
You used the Pixel 4,
I did use the Pixel 4. I used it. I reviewed the Pixel 4 for TechRadar, and one of our colleagues in the US reviewed the Pixel 4 XL, and both of those phones had, in all honesty, just terrible battery life. Probably the worst battery life I've seen on a flagship phone for the last 3 or 4 years, and it was just really off-putting in that way. I was getting to like 6 p.m. on a day and not even using the phone that much, but still ended up having the phone die. So I'm more excited about the budget series. So the 3A was the first time that Google did this, where they basically took a lot of the similar specs, essentially the same camera, put it into a much cheaper phone with a slightly less premium design. The chipset included was not the top end chipset like you get in the normal Pixel series, and just a few little changes like that, but then also half the price. And that is honestly a phone, if you've got around £400 to spend, or I think dollars wise $500 or so, if you've got around that kind of amount of money to spend, I would go for the Pixel 3a right now, but also probably wait until the Pixel 4a, as it looks like they're going to be coming out in around May or so.
What are you hoping the 4a does, builds on the 4?
Takes that camera from the Pixel 4, basically, is what I want them to do. I don't think they really will build on top of what the 4 did, because it will be a much lower spec phone than that, but in terms of compared to the 3a, I think the camera can be a little bit better even, but the camera's phenomenal in that, really, considering it's an affordable phone. Maybe a tiny bit more power, and I would honestly be fine with having a slightly thicker phone for more battery life. I don't think that would be a big problem in an affordable phone that way.
And what do you make of the rumours that the 4A could be the first 5G phone from Google?
That's mad. Like, to me, that makes that makes no sense really in terms of that series being a 5G device. But maybe Google wants all its phones to be ready to be on 5G, and it's probably relatively easy for Google to do in terms of them only having maximum 5 devices in a year, four or 5 devices, depending on how many they release for the Pixel 5 series. I don't think 5G is a necessary feature, and if it drives the price up of the A series, I don't really think that's necessary. But if it's going to be included in the same kind of price bracket, then fair enough, that'd be great.
Right. Okay, so James, your final choice.
My final choice is the iPhone 5G. Is that going to come in 2020? Is it not? Who knows?
Yep, you're expecting it to be called the iPhone 5G. Let's start with the name.
I don't think so, but I think 5G will be some part of the name. So if it becomes the iPhone 12 series, which would make sense after the iPhone 11, I think they probably will be going iPhone 12 5G, because I don't think all of Apple's phones will be 5G this year. That's my own personal opinion on that. I don't know anything, but I just don't think 5G is that ready that Apple will fully get on board with it this year. I think instead they will offer one device which is going to offer 5G, and then the rest of the series will be a normal 4G device. Then when we get to 2021, that's when we'll be looking at.
Do you think the iPhone 5G will be its own device that's different to the other ones as well as from the 5G, or will it just be an iPhone with added 5G in the way that Samsung Galaxy S10 5G, that was different to the S10s?
Totally, and I think that's probably what Apple will end up doing here. Maybe you'll get a couple of extra features that Apple want to try and test out on the users that are happy to spend for that high-end 5G phone device. But yeah, I just don't honestly see them including it on all of the devices in 2020. So far, in terms of the iPhone 12 rumours, we don't really know all that much at all about what these devices are going to offer. But yeah, I think that's the one that's really going to be the game changer for people that want 5G and are also not stuck, but they're in the Apple ecosystem and they want to keep in the Apple ecosystem.
I think it's also worth bringing up that we've heard rumours that the next iPad Pro, which could come before the iPhone, could be 5G compatible as well. So Apple's first 5G product might not actually be an iPhone. Do you believe these rumours? Do you think that's a little bit too fast for Apple?
They've never really pushed that hard in the 4G space, like in terms of like they do offer their devices in cellular options, but it's never really been like their main focus. So I would be quite surprised of that. But then again, this is also the day we're filming this is the day after Samsung announced their first 5G tablet, so perhaps they will go for that kind of market. And it's also a good way of test bedding how 5G works for their customers in that kind of way. So maybe we'll see it in an iPad earlier in the year. Then a phone will come either later this year or it could be 2021. This is definitely my wildcard pick. It may not even happen this year.
Right. Okay.
Cool, so let's jump into your last pick, Dom.
My last pick is a phone that we know we're going to see, we just don't know what we're going to see. That's a new Motorola flagship. We've heard that the company's been working on a new phone sit above all its lines, the G, the E, the Z, everything. So we know
Sound like a rapper.
We know there's something interesting coming. We just don't know anything at all about it, really. We've heard rumours that it could be called the Edge. We've heard rumours that it could have a stylus like the S Pen of the Note series. Yeah. But there's nothing really we know so far. We don't even know if it's going to be a mid-range, because that would still be above the XZ series, or if it could be a top premium phone to rival like the top from Samsung and Apple.
It'd be interesting as well, because obviously at the end of last year, they launched the Motorola Razr phone, which is really top end.
Top end in terms of price, maybe not in terms of specs as much, with a mid-range chipset and only like a small camera resolution. Yeah,
a very expensive price. So it's interesting to see Motorola move in that direction, because we have not had that flagship phone for them for quite a while, really, and especially in the UK, we haven't seen their flagship device in the US, the Z3 and the Z4. We didn't see either of those phones come to the UK, so that'd be interesting for us.
One of the reasons I'm excited is because more and more we're seeing like the top end flagships, like from Xiaomi, from Oppo. The Chinese companies really defining what makes a flagship, so it's interesting to see a phone company that's not from that kind of same school of thought come here and show us, this is a new flagship.
Do you think the Moto mods are gone? Do you think that's
I think they would stick with the Z series regardless. So whatever this is, I don't think it'll have Moto mods. There could be a new phone with Moto mods coming in 2020, but I don't think it would be this one.
Cool, I'm excited to see what that is from Motorola. Thanks for watching this video. Be sure to give us a thumbs up if you liked it, and be sure to subscribe as well.
And head over to TechRadar.com for all our news, analysis, reviews, everything you need for your tech life.